Okay, well then let's just start the session this way. Welcome everyone officially to the weekly team sessions, team hangouts. We bring different team members into sessions to get updates from them, either learn more about different team members or just get the latest updates from what's happening behind the scenes. So yeah, Hein, welcome again. Let's start maybe with a little, maybe what can you tell us about how your week has been, and is there anything you can maybe share with us before we get into some of the community questions?
Oh, it's been a very busy week. I'm not sure how much I can tell about what we've been doing, but I suspect there will also be a lot of questions around what's happening. So I think one of the most important things to mention is that we are very heavily into the testing of DuskEVM at the moment, right? So we're going through the full flows. We know that certain parts are extremely stable. We've been testing them for a while now. It's working on DevNet. And we are at a point where we can say, okay, we're going to make a release candidate for Rusk with the changes that we've done over time. So we've made quite a decent chunk of changes to the features that are in mainnet that we needed for DuskEVM. And those will be locked in and released. So that will happen next week. Then we will roll it out to testnet, and if that is also considered stable, we do it to mainnet. That can happen in parallel to the work that we're doing on DuskEVM for the test validation. So that will also mean we will have a testnet available quite soon. For DuskEVM itself, and that will be more stable than what we currently have. What we currently have, we at times just reset it to do some testing and whatnot to see how it behaves under less stable circumstances. And that's been looking very good so far. So people who've been checking our DevNet Explorer can see that we've been doing deposits, withdrawals, and you also see failed transactions at times. And those are basically to see what the behavior is in negative cases, right? Because it's one thing to have the happy path. It's also really important to understand what the negative paths are, so that at least unknown unknowns are not unknown unknowns anymore, but they become knowns. And in that sense, then when you do validation, you know you're safe. And that's looking really good so far. Yeah, so I think that's the spot that we are in with DuskEVM. Slowly, we're starting with the rollouts. Testing and validation looks good. There's still some things we want to test and make sure. Also, with regard to, for example, future updates, so that we're not stuck with what we have now. I need to do a full-on network migration. That will be quite horrible, but we've got multiple pathways to do that. We've also validated a couple of them. But that is also in a testing phase. Front-end publishing, that's also some things that we have to do. So a lot of it is rollout and validation at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Got it, yeah. Last update we had, I believe we were still working on, like you mentioned, doing the test on failed scenarios on the deposit and the withdrawal. I believe the deposit is now pretty much complete, if I'm not mistaken, and we're doing the same test on the withdrawal flow at the moment. So
yeah, I can say about the withdrawal, that stuff has also been integrated in the front end, right? And also the fact that you can see, so in the structure that you have there, you have something when you enter the network, you deposit funds into a smart contract, and that smart contract has your DuskEVM address, so that once the deposit takes place, the money is received on DuskEVM on the wallet you provided. And the other way around is a little bit more difficult, and that is because DuskEVM does not recognize Dusk keys, right? And we have a way to prevent changing optimism, which would have been quite problematic for us, because then we would need to maintain that whole code base. But we don't have to do that. We have a different mechanism in place to make this happen. And in this different mechanism, it's possible to provide your DuskDS key and then receive the funds on DuskDS on the DuskDS key without modifying the optimism system. We've been validating that. We've been testing that. That's looking good. There are some more things we want to test there to guarantee stability. But there is no surprises there anymore. This is also integrated for the most part in the front end. So there's no, I don't see any surprises there anymore.
Sweet, yeah,
just
that's music to my ears. So okay, this is going well. Testing is going well. Then, so next week you mentioned we should have an update on a Rusk update, a Rusk upgrade. We'll probably share that with the community once we have it, but that should come next week. And afterwards, we should be expecting getting closer to the public testnet that's going to come out, where we're going to be doing the exact same test that we've been doing so far, but it should theoretically, move much smoother, considering that we already went through the flow. We're just redoing it on testnet, right?
Yeah, I think one of the primary reasons to have this testnet as well is people can try to find the edge cases, right? Which is also always welcome to see if we made some mistake somewhere. But the primary thing to do here is we have some partners, right? And they want to integrate before we launch, or they want to have it running, right? Something, an environment to test before publishing what they have. So at the moment, we're not really recommending people to use the DuskEVM testnet because it's in a rather unstable state where we sometimes reset the thing and whatnot. And if you're like a third party that's doing the testing, it's suboptimal. So once we have that live, then probably you also see activity from other people than just us setting up bridges and whatnot, like everything you would expect, maybe a DEX here or there. So that will happen. And there is also something I probably shouldn't say, but Xavi and I have been working on Hedger. And that's also something we want to show progress on. So we can already do that, but I would rather wait until we have the testnet going there. But we can probably throw it on DevNet as well. But demoing that, the Rust rollout.
So where were we? Hein was giving us some really cool alpha. Hedger is coming. Was there anything else that I might have missed?
No, I think Hedger, and there was a subtle hint that there are some partners ready to, very eager to test some stuff on the testnet. And I'll leave it to people to figure out what that means.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, well then, thank you for the little update and the nice little alpha. Then I guess we can get into some of the community questions that the community has asked in the AMA channel. So some of them were also related to the web wallet. So I might be skipping those and leaving these for Kieran. There were some which were related to the web wallet, which we could ask, like maybe, what could be some of the next big features of the web wallet with EVM capabilities already being a big step. Are there more things coming that are planned, or is there anything interesting in particular that you can tell us about that?
Yeah, this is a topic I find quite interesting myself, because in the beginning it was quite difficult to develop for DuskDS, right? The tooling wasn't that easy. Communication outside of the Rust boundary was quite difficult, but we, as part of DuskEVM, we generalized this a bit and find a quite good solution with something that we call the data driver, which is a way to translate data you pass around between the network and client applications like JavaScript environments like the web wallet. And we put that in Vesper. So it's very easy now, if you have a data driver for a smart contract, to communicate back and forth. I added some very nice wrappers for that looks similar to some development tools that people are already used to. And that decreases a barrier. that was there. Now there is one big problem left that I know Soju partially resolved, and that is the ability to arbitrarily sign transactions for any given contract. At the moment, you need to move your dApp inside of the web wallet or communicate to the web wallet through an external application. And this is a bit risky, especially if what a web app developer would have to do is to allow you to import your mnemonic on their website for a Dusk system. And that's very suboptimal. Like, that's a huge security risk. So if we resolve one of those things, then I think that DuskDS as a platform to develop contracts on starts becoming competitive towards systems like Ethereum and Solana. Our contract development is actually very clean. You need to know Rust, but with the right tooling, which already exists with the Dusk Forge, for example, and if you use the data driver, it's maybe easier than developing for Solana. Like, it's so and definitely easier than Polkadot. It's so straightforward. So that's an angle that we can start thinking a little bit more about if you want to. It's not really our focus, but that could be one thing. And then that also would mean more activity on DuskDS potentially. We in the past developed a token standard, right, like an ERC20 compatible token standard. That could be integrated quite easily in the web wallet when we formalized the standard. I know that Soju also did a lot of work there. But this is not a focus for us at Dusk at the moment, but that is an angle that we could attack. And I find personally very interesting because even though we do DuskEVM, right, DuskEVM, the contracts there are just contracts. They're just like any third-party contract. And we do more wiring inside of the web wallet to make it possible. But DuskEVM does not negate what we already have there. You can still build contracts for privacy. Someone could still do an RWA contract on DuskDS if they want to. It's less easy than on DuskEVM, but it's still possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, going forward, of course, a lot of the different dApps would probably, would choose DuskEVM just because it's familiar tooling and it's EVM compatible. But in case, in the future, anyone wants to build something and develop on DuskDS, that's still possible and it's still quite relatively easy in comparison even to, like you mentioned, Solana or Polkadot. So we do have all these features which are already ready there. And when it comes to the web wallet, are there plans to also launch an extension of, like the MetaMask extension for the Dusk wallet sometime in the future?
That's a very good question. I am quite interested in this because of the reason of the signing of transactions. We don't have it in the roadmap at the moment, right? Our roadmap is heavily focused on DuskEVM, STOX, and then the native issuance flow, right? Like, that is the core line that Dusk has always had and will always continue to do. That does not mean that maybe I get bored in my free time and will do something along those lines, right? But it's not really a company priority at the moment. But I know that we've experimented in the past with making DuskDS available as a snap, a MetaMask snap, so that you have an integration just like they did with Solana. Right. But I don't really remember where that left off because it's been quite a while.
No, makes sense. And I mean, of course, now with DuskEVM being a big priority and a lot of the ecosystem that will be built on DuskEVM, which you will be able to use MetaMask and all the EVM tools. You don't need at this moment to have an extension for the web wallet. But once DuskEVM becomes more relevant in the future, that could be something that we would be looking towards, right? Cool. That's cool to know. Thanks, Hein. The next question, okay, so that's it about the web wallet. Now getting into some of the other things. Someone asked that one of the latest tweets from the Dusk account mentioned something about an LP Is that something that would happen on DuskEVM? Will it be pairs versus Dusk or only versus stablecoins?
I don't know which specific tweet that refers to.
I'm not entirely sure either. Could be that something was mentioned at some point, but I haven't heard of plans around that. But you can probably tell me more. It might be.
No, I don't have enough context.
Okay.
To answer that.
We can run the view on this later on if we get the context. Next.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I see the tweet. I think it's this one. So once DeFi and TradFi truly banned, we will see a huge amount of innovation. Will you be able to borrow stablecoins against your stocks? I think this is a really interesting point. So what's being suggested here in the first point is leveraging stocks and bonds to get stablecoins so that you can put a debt against it. This is definitely something that we want to see and that we're working on. So having a lending platform where, for example, some of the tokenized assets we want to issue and the natively issued assets that we want to issue, that you can borrow against those. From a liquidity point of view, this is also very powerful for us because it is a TVL multiplier having this lending borrowing markets. And if you want to do a full vertical of finance, which is basically what, in my view, we're doing, then you want to have this functionality at some point in the future. Then you have to get rewarded in Dusk to run nodes for the infrastructure you use. Yeah, that's of course the disintermediation aspect of it, and then going to DLT. And then the third point is create LPs and use the yield to buy bonds and earn more yield, ? So this is an inevitability of the fact of the primitives that we use for trading. So we have a strategic partnership coming up with it's not going to be the biggest one, but it's going to be a very important one because the product that they have is really good. I can't name names yet, that would be saying too much, but they also have liquidity pools, and these liquidity pools, they are two-sided, right? Because you have, for example, a money market fund or an ETF that is accumulating. And what that means is that, for example, if you have one value of it, and you accumulate, then this one value over time increases in value. So you can keep the asset and see it grow, or you put it up as an LP and you put cash on the other side, and then you accumulate either, depending on the loss that you have, the impermanent loss, and the shifting of the liquidity pool, you either get a little bit more of the stable coin pair that you have, and a little bit more of the asset you hold, but then you also get yield on the trades, right? So this is possible. I don't think we have legally checked this. I don't think there's any problems. The important thing is the delivery versus payment, so the finality of the transaction that you do. But if you do a liquidity pool trade, those are a given, because the transaction is atomic, so that's okay.
Okay, that's good to know.
I hope that was not too technical, and but did answer the question. Also, I'll gladly clarify.
Yeah, I think it did, and thanks for finding the relevant tweet for that. That gives some good context and a little bit of alpha as well, which I'm always happy to hear. The next question is around, let's see. So now STOX is getting closer. Will Dusk have a function, so the Dusk token next to gas fees, example being trading fees versus Dusk, or any special functions to unlock by holding more Dusk, like discounts, more yield on the app, like we saw with bonds before? Example comparable to BNB.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, and I think that the BNB model is a very good model. Like, for example, what they do is, if you hold BNB, you can choose if you do trades, to have the fee paid in BNB, and then you get a discount, right? Like a 10-20% discount or whatever. I think it's even based on how much BNB you hold, which makes it even cooler for them, right? Because it gives you a very strong incentive to hold BNB. Obviously, we are checking those type of models. Obviously, we are also looking at success models at the moment. For example, like Hyperliquid and whatever they are doing. And I think there's a lot of good things that we can do. At the moment, the primary function of Dusk is the gas fee on both DuskEVM and DuskDS. I'm not happy with the current gas accumulation, right? So I think the issuance subsidization at the moment of the token is fine for node runners, but there also needs to be more back pressure, and that is not really there at the moment. So one of the things we're looking at is making certain gas operations more expensive. Because at the moment they're negligible, right? So we'll tune those parameters, not to a point that it discourages people to use the network, but to a point where there is at least a little bit more back pressure than there is at the moment. On the other side, there are also more things that we're considering in how to use Dusk. For example, if a native issuance takes place, we can take part of the fees that we get to do buybacks of Dusk. When it comes to trading, we can do buybacks with the revenue and burn tokens, and we can also do burns or returns to node operators on the earnings on Dusk EVM. So we're exploring all of these options. There are a little bit more. We haven't locked them in yet. When we make these changes known, we'll provide a more comprehensive write-up on this. But for us, as Dusk, we have a protocol fee that we get, right? As part of the developer fund, and we get through our staking, and we use that funds to grow our treasury over time, right? Now we do not really need to make money on some of the other activities that we do. For example, on STOX, the revenue earnings we get on that are not that relevant for us. We in theory don't need that. So if the activity there is very nice, and the same thing on DuskEVM, we can very easily say, okay, let's just burn it. Let's reduce the pressure on the issuance, and let's make Dusk more rare.
Right.
So that's definitely things we're exploring. And there's also maybe cashback options and whatnot that we're considering for some more plans that we have in the pipeline, but it really depends on what we'll do. It can even be that in the stock exchange of NPEX, we'll allow for people that hold Dusk to pay with Dusk to do trades on the NPEX exchange, but then also apply a discount like BNB does. But we'll have to look how this looks like. That's not set in stone yet, but we're exploring multiple avenues.
Okay, I mean, that's all huge news. I'm glad to hear that all of these avenues are being explored, and there are more and more utilities being kind of thought of for the Dusk token, and how to increase its value over time, of course, for our stakers and holders as well. And it's good to hear about.
Yeah, but just to clarify, right? Yeah, but just to clarify, the reason for doing that should be tied to utility. That's what we want to do. We don't want to do any sort of gimmicky approach, right? That is just going to backfire in the long term. We want something that's sustainable. So it will become a multiplier once the products are, once there's more activity, once there is something to back it up, right? I think that's the only sustainable approach to do it.
Yeah, I agree. It makes sense. And someone was asking about the gas fees because they did mention that the current gas fees were, a bit low, and they were curious if we were thinking of making them, dynamic based, for example, with the Dusk price versus euro, so that to make it more stable pricing and avoid extreme gas fees at some point. you kind of touched a bit on gas fees.
Yeah, I can dive a little bit deeper in that because it's a little bit different. One side is supply pressure from issuance and reduction in the supply, which is partially there but not completely. And on the other side, you have the aspect of like a baseline. So both networks, both DuskEVM and DuskDS, are extremely fast. For what it is. For DuskDS, when we do privacy preserving transactions, we can do plus 200 TPS on relatively slow hardware because the VPNs that we recommend are not fast at all, right? Like they are very mediocre in performance. So we already get, if we can fill that block space, then we're doing a fantastic job. At the same time, DuskEVM can, even with the current setup, which is also suboptimal, do 500 TPS, right? So if we fill that combined space, we're talking about 2-3 times the Ethereum ecosystem. And what we are doing is not filling that niche of low-value transactions, right? We don't want people to transfer 5 cents or whatever, right? Or do some front-running bot sandwich attacks. What we want is people, oh, I buy 500 worth of this asset, 500 of that asset. Oh, I vote for this stock decision, for that stock decision, right? So the things that we want to achieve are very different, and thus you need different performance characteristics. And our network is already very capable to fill space for multiple very big brokers, because I know the numbers of their throughput, order throughput even. So the order throughput we can easily match. Now, that means that the baseline price doesn't have to be directly connected to block space being used. We can do that, but that's not going to change much because the block space is not being filled heavily. It's quite empty, right? So the easiest thing we can do to fix this is by saying, okay, we know what the gas expenditure for certain actions are, but what we can do is, at the moment, the minimum gas price is, for example, 1 lux. From now on, we're going to lock it to 100 lux, right? So you have a 100-fold in cost, or 10-fold by putting it to 10. And then based on what the Dusk price does over time, we just do a configuration change, a hard fork of sorts, and say, okay, we'll just reduce the value down. It's always a little bit of a balancing act, and we're basically acting as central bankers here, but with the approval of the rest of the network, and of course to sustain the economics of the network. Now, DuskEVM at the moment is just a fraction of the cost of DuskDS, so we'll level that out, so that the transaction on DuskEVM is closer to like half or whatever what it is on DuskDS, or maybe 1/10, but not what it is at the moment. And for DuskDS also, we're going to prop up the price, because at the moment you pay peanuts.
Right. Okay, thank you, Dad. That answers the question quite thoroughly. The next question would be around, someone's asking if EuroQ from Quantos will be minted on DuskEVM, or is it also planned to be minted on DuskDS?
Not planned for DuskDS at the moment. We will have a bridge provider that provides us USDT and USDC to our ecosystem as well. And at the moment, our bridge does not support arbitrary tokens, but if in the future it will, then we can also provide those on DuskDS. But at the moment, we are not focusing on that.
Okay, got it. The next question is around the DuskEVM, and well, you kind of touched a bit on this, but if you want to reiterate this, someone is asking what is still blocking a DuskEVM public testnet release.
What is blocking it? Well, I think it's the rollout of the new Rusk version with the features we have to testnet. I think that's one of the primary problems. Well, it's not really a problem, but it's one of the primary tasks that we have to do, as well as we're working on the setup for testnet and mainnet of DuskEVM. The setup that it will run up the infrastructure, and one of our guys is working on that at the moment.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I see a couple of more questions being asked in the AMA channel. Let me just open that up. Okay. Let's see. Last year, the team said it would prioritize not having NDAs in partnership agreements in order to have more transparency around that. Yet we are still completely in the dark on all partnerships that team says were in place and are to be rolled out soon. What happened there, and when will we actually hear about the partners?
Well, this is a fun question, because I think it's indeed true that the NDAs have been relaxed heavily. But the order of operations and decisions when to announce stuff, I think it's better thrown back at you. You're more aware of that than me, so.
Yeah, so I've been involved in some of the marketing meetings, and I guess most of that comes from the place of you don't want to have a long period of time in between announcements, right? And since we're not yet 100% sure of the exact date of when DuskEVM will be launched, doing a partnership announcement, even this week, for example, and then having to wait a couple more weeks until DuskEVM is out, we don't want to lose the momentum. So we want to make sure that there's not a big chunk of time. At the moment, everything looks perfect, like Hein mentioned. Things are going smoothly. They're working on the new upgrade for Rusk. The testing and validation seems to be going smooth as well, and there doesn't seem to be any issues on that end. So looking at that, we are confident about the release of DuskEVM in the next, I'm not going to say how long, but we're confident about the release. I'm trying to be very careful. Put on the
next decades.
But because of that, of course, we want to be wary of building the right momentum and having not a long period of time in between announcements, but at the same time, still doing stuff and announcing whatever we can in the waiting period before the build-up and before announcing the announcements and announcing the partners, and before doing all the co-marketing and spaces that we're planning to do with each partner. So it's more around that. It's not necessarily that at this moment we can share who they are because of NDAs, but it's not going to have the same impact if you already know from a Hangout who the partners are, whereas the impact of what an announcement, along with co-marketing activities that are coordinated accordingly, will actually have once they are done.
Yeah, exactly. You want to build up momentum, right? And if you just throw out something now, it will fall flat on its face if it doesn't have a nice follow-up afterwards. Because I think there is some quite interesting stuff coming up, right, with one of the partners, and they have some stuff on their end going on that will fit nicely into what we are doing, and then what we are doing with them will be announced, and then they have a couple of rolling items that they want to do together with us, right? Like, for example, X spaces and whatnot. And if you just do that in a vacuum, it's meaningless, right?
It's gonna lose its impact for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope that answers the question, Joachim. The next one is around STOX. Can you share more about the STOX development? Is it fully done and just waiting for DuskEVM, or is there work to be done on STOX?
Yeah, STOX is multifaceted, right? So it has its own internal roadmap with different deliverables. For example, there will be a sign-up page that will come first, and we have a page where you can start on multiple chains buying the assets, which will do order routing to different assets. And there is one particular asset provider that will launch with, but we can add more as we go. So it is as a step-for-step approach. First phase there is done, so that can launch whenever we feel like. and the other step is dependent on DuskEVM. So these things are just happening in parallel. They're being worked on, and they have to fit into the greater narrative we want to push, right? So what you probably do not want to do is at the same time throw everything out in one go, because then again, like, oh, you just showed all your cards and there is no room for building momentum.
Okay,
but there still needs to be some stuff done, right? Like I think one of the things we want to have is like a more comprehensive trading, but that will not be in the first phase. Instead, you'll have buying and redemption of tokenized assets. So we have our own tokenization engine there, and I guess it will look a lot like what Ondo has at the moment. And then the step afterwards would be to have what we discussed before about the liquidity provisioning for these specific assets.
That makes sense. It also fits with what Thomas mentioned in the past with the rolled phased approach.
Exactly. So
yeah. Okay. Excited for that. I can't wait to see it in action. Another question is: today is the last day of October. Postponing the demo to next Friday is a bit of a bummer in view of how far things seem to be. Can you inform us on when you aim to launch testnet? You said that there will be no surprises anymore, so would love to get some feeling for it. If the aim is next week, week thereafter, December, or etc. I know we're not
at launch testnet. Now, launch testnet depends. The DuskDS testnet upgrade will happen next week. The launch of the DuskEVM testnet is when I get the green light. So we have like we have a whole test sheet with all sorts of tests that we do, and a couple of edge case tests in there. They're not all on green yet. If the DuskDS testnet upgrade has taken place and is implemented, and the sheet is fully green, then we can launch the public testnet.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's conditionality. It's pure conditionality. I mean, I can put an estimate on the test cases themselves and the rollout, but there is always a level of uncertainty that I cannot account for.
Yeah, so that comes back to the different tests that you mentioned in the beginning of the session, right? The validation and the fail scenarios tests, which are happening for the deposit and withdrawal, right? So as long as those tests.
No, I mean, we know that works as well. It's also dependent on the results of the rollout of DuskDS testnet. Right, so they're independent actions, but they are interlinked in results. So if, for example, we deploy this new version of Rusk, and there is some problems with this upgrade, right? For example, with the blob transactions that we're adding, then we need to investigate that first. We've tested this already, but you cannot just. It's not like your personal website being upgraded. On the internet, right? This needs a lot more validation. There is like actual change management taking place.
Right. Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, thank you, Hein. At least, of course, having the testnet of DuskDS upgraded next week is going to be a great first step.
More things we're going to show next week, right? So, I mean, like I mentioned before, I mean, sorry that we couldn't show the front end, but I can do it now, but I don't want to take away from Kieran. He did all the effort there, and he's the one who built it. So I want to have him give the opportunity to show it. And then next week we can also show Hedger.
Ooh. Okay, damn! This session is full of alpha. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, everything is coming together as it is. It's just as it is. So
yeah, it's great to finally be able to share more about what's happening behind the scenes, right? Because I know a lot of the community has been a bit in the dark lately. So just hearing more about it and how things are going and what we have planned for the very near future is great to have visibility on. So thank you for that, Hein. Let me see if there's any more questions which I might have missed, maybe in chat. Is everything progressing as per the internal timeline? I guess you already kind of touched on this.
Well, I mean, I can say nothing ever goes according to the plan. I mean, the plan is always a set structure, right? And sometimes it's a little bit above and sometimes it's a little bit below. But when it comes to stability of the network itself, very positive, I must say. Of course, validation takes a little bit longer, but the stability that we've been seeing is a lot better than I would have expected. It's the same thing we actually saw with mainnet, where it took us longer to validate stuff, right? Like we promised in 2024. But the thing has been absolutely rock solid. So I hope people can take some solace in it. And I mean, it's not great when given deadlines are missed and people have to wait and they're left in the dark. I can fully understand that, and I'm sorry if that hurts you guys a little bit. But the solace is in the fact that we have not had any bullish massive downtimes and nuking of the network. So we can probably enforce it if it is a bullish thing, but it's not been seen yet in the wild.
Yeah, well said, Hein. Yeah, thank you for that. Well, since there's no more questions, guys, I'll give you maybe another minute to ask any more questions if you do have. If not, we could end it here. I think this was a very insightful session, Hein, and I know it hasn't been easy for anyone. Just waiting for everything to come together, but it's finally getting so close, and I think it's so exciting, especially for you and the team, to see everything finally being able to click into place, and gonna see it all live and in action over the next, of course, weeks, months, and throughout the whole year with everything that will be coming up for Dusk. So
yeah, exactly. I think that from an infrastructure point of view, we'll be in a very good place. Partnership wise, there's also some very interesting partners. I see someone asked about excitedness and the profile of it. We have a couple of strategic deals. Some are very big, some not, but they are important. So we make a careful trade-off here. That basically we do not do it just based on the emptiness of the thing. We pick our partners carefully, and we weigh all of the factors, not just the hype factor, but also the importance of what it brings us. And sometimes that's a good part, and sometimes it might be less interesting to some. Maybe some in the past that you saw might not be as nice as you would have wanted, but they do matter.
Okay, well, I think we can end it there. Thank you, Hein, for joining, and thanks everyone for joining the session. I think that was like I mentioned. I think this was a very interesting, good session. Even though Kieran wasn't able to attend, I think we had a very good session with some pretty nice updates. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Take care. Bye.